specifically in a church worship team environment, I really like to hammer home to the guys that I play with in different settings that the rehearsal on Wednesday is not where you learn the songs. You don't learn the music at rehearsal. At rehearsal, you run through the music. Work out how to start and stop things. But you really should show up to rehearsal already knowing the song, at least, right? At my church, maybe we're going to do, they send out recordings. I don't know if that's how everybody does it or whatever, but most churches I'm at, they send out recordings ahead of time, a few days ahead of time. I want to make sure I know the recording when I show up to rehearsal. That way, if it's different than the recording, I know how it's different, as opposed to spending the first half of the rehearsal just kind of figuring out what I'm going to do. I already want to have in mind what I'm going to do, and then we can spend rehearsal trying it and cementing it. That's, not everybody is a professional musician. I'm a professional musician. Not everybody is. But that's how a professional does things. You don't show up to the gig, to the rehearsal for the gig, hearing the music for the first time right then. You probably get fired if that's what happens. Right? You show up to the rehearsal. They've sent out the music weeks ahead of time. You're like, how's this first song go? How fast is it? And they're like, you haven't listened to it? You're probably out. That's just, you're wasting everybody's time who did prepare. Everybody who prepared is like, oh, someone among us didn't prepare. So now we've got to spend the bulk of our time together getting you up to speed, which means they're just like sitting around or something, right? So I find it really helpful to craft. I feel like rehearsals in worship teams, if they, I like to play offensively. When I say play offensively, what I mean is I know what's happening. I know what I'm going to do. I know what other people are going to do, and I can take that into account. Juxtapose that with the emotion of the moment, the way the Spirit's moving, right? We all know what's going to happen. Playing defensively means I'm not sure that I remember exactly how this goes. I hope this is right. Okay, the way I just move is different when I'm playing defensively. When I don't know exactly how it's going to go, I'm less assertive. I think I'm less consistent. I think I sound worse, right? So I find that rehearsals where everyone already knows the tunes when you arrive, okay? That rehearsal ends up producing offensive mentality for Sunday morning. As opposed to the rehearsal when everybody arrives, they're learning the songs for the first time. They've got time to forget it. There's no cementing that takes place, right? To me, the rehearsal is where you cement it. It's where you solidify. And then that solidification, is that a word? Results in offensive playing when Sunday morning comes. I take that philosophy into my secular gigging world too. I want the gig to be a place, the performance to be a place where I'm offensive. So I'm just going to do what I can to prepare ahead of time. I absolutely do that. And again, it comes down to my ability to serve the song. Am I good at serving the song? Do I listen to the right things and evaluate my contribution correctly? If so, right, that's the thing that I work on the most. The thing that I work on the most is serving the song, learning how to do that better. And if I'm good at doing that, then those instincts will probably help me in those moments where, like, boy, I know that I'm doing, analytically speaking, the same thing that the drummer did on the recording. But my serve the song alarm is going off. Something should change. I'm going to change this because the time that I've spent exploring this and realizing what kinds of buttons this pushes in people makes me feel like this moment needs this. Whereas in the recording, something was different about it that made it not need that, but now it does. Or whatever, I mean, that's so again, it just comes back to that. I'm trying to tie everything together, like serving the song, thinking about it, being an active listener. I love discoveries when I'm listening that I can picture in other environments. Like I'm listening to a John Mayer album or something like that, and I hear the drummer do something, and it's an idea that I've never considered. The context of the song and the thing that he did and the way that it worked, it's kind of a light bulb moment. And I'm like, wow, that's a great idea. And instantly into my mind come all of these other contexts that I'm regularly playing in that could benefit from that thing, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah, really thankful to have noticed that just now, because I think that's going to come back around, right? Have this just running log in my mind of stuff that I learned from listening. And it's mainly just serve the song context kinds of things, you know? And then when those moments occur, when in the rehearsal it's just not working quite as well as I thought it was gonna, I turn to my log of, like, what else could work here? You know? Which again, it just requires that when you're listening to something, you have an active awareness of the context that you're listening and not just the thing, you know? What other kind of fill should I do right now is determined by what's the bass player doing? What's the guitar player doing? You know, this context here. What else can I do? Man, this thing that the drummer on the Keith Urban record did. Keith Urban, people make fun of him sometimes. I don't know, people make fun of country music. I love it. Not because I love country music, but because those guys are so aware of their context. Good grief. All of those musicians listen to each other so well. They really serve the song well.